right, Bolts and Hose. Bryce, what episode are we on, my man?
Episode number 55.
55.
55. Good job, man. Well done.
Well played. Get the last part. You know, you got to take the first part.
So, we missed a week or 2 weeks. I think we've been slacking.
We're back from Fastener Fair, though, in Cleveland. So we've got a little bit of an excuse. We were there.
A little bit.
I think you brought some footage back, right?
Yeah, we have, one of the guys that we had on before of...
Eric Dudas.
What's his fully threaded radio? He was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame jamming on stage.
Yeah.
And he did really good.
They organized it to where he got up and played a guitar and sang, and he did great.
It was
fantastic.
Well done. Let's do a cheers.
So they had the rest of the band playing. Cheers.
Cheers.
So this is an interesting concoction we got here as well.
We had just a little bit left of EH. We had a little bit left of Buffalo Trace. I thought we should blend them together.
Yeah. I cheated a little bit. I had a sip. It's not bad.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, how could it be bad? It's just whiskey.
Well, two awesome things don't necessarily make a more awesome thing.
Name one situation in your life where two awesome things don't make a thing more awesome.
I'm sure I can think of thousands.
Everything in your life that is
examples.
two awesome things, if you put them together, it is even more awesomer.
I don't know. I think I could probably come up with some situations where that wouldn't work.
It's a challenge. Next week, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the challenge of the week. So it's been a while. Like Chris said, we went to Fastener Fair. I feel like I went out of town, or I took off Friday. I think you screwed around a little bit. I feel like we haven't done a podcast in a long time.
It's been 2 weeks.
Has
We've
it
missed
been
2
2
weeks.
weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So Fastener Fair was one of them.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
Or one of
the last one was with Danny.
Yeah, correct. Yep,
Morgan.
that was the last one.
Danny
and your
Morgan.
music was really loud in the background.
Yeah, your mom did not like that. I promise you, Miss Oliveira, we will fix that.
It will be fixed
this week. Yes.
And look, my wife just got back from Cabo. She got me a shirt that says Boats and Hose.
I don't think everybody can see it.
Boats and Hose.
Boats and Hose.
Check that out.
I've got a T-shirt. I almost put it on. It was Where My Hose At.
Where HOSE.
Where My Hose At.
Or HOES.
It had a picture of a fireman.
Oh.
And it said, "Where my hose at?"
Where your hose at? Where are your hose?
Alex has got him over there.
Alex in Louisiana.
Yeah, he's kicking ass over there.
We should do one podcast that is directly for hose. And instead of doing like boats and hose, it should be like I got hose in different area codes. A Ludacris song?
Yeah.
I've got hose.
Never heard that one before.
Really? That surprised me one bit.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today, Mr. Kolb?
We've got some really cool parts. I mean, I will say you've kind of outdone yourself on this one, Bryce. These are some good-looking parts.
There was too many parts to choose from.
Yeah.
Like, I literally went out there, and I didn't even know, like, people were coming up to me with parts. I had to turn down cool parts.
Hey, but before we do that, we wanted to pick a technical topic.
Mm-hmm. Technical topic.
And I thought, when we pick something like that, I would pick an easy one, an obvious one, but a very important one, I think.
Very important.
I thought... since we're in the bolting world and we're dealing with people that install and use and probably are more familiar with the technical side of bolting, to talk about K-factor.
K-factor. And I asked you this question earlier, and this is the first thing that comes to my brain. What's the K stand for?
I think everybody has heard of this term. I don't know anybody that really... It explains it very well. And I think people probably even understand the concept.
Hey,
but
this guy, I just saw him walk up. Sorry.
Okay.
We can cut this too.
We're going to pause, and we're going to be right back.
All right. We got a special guest. This is super last minute. We had a good customer coming to pick up some parts today, and we were talking bolts and hose because I was wearing my boats and hose shirt.
I need one of those when you get them.
You got it, man.
Absolutely.
And so, Jared, welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely. Pleasure having me.
So we're just going to do something short and sweet because you're waiting on parts to pick up. And let's talk high pressure equipment because that's kind of what you guys do, right?
Yeah, we specialize in high pressure equipment, anything from LDPE processes, which you can get up to 50,000 PSI and above, to make some plastics, and everything from what we call from our valves, specialty valves, to intercooler reactor tubing. Special.
That was an interesting one because Paul brought that up the other day. LDPE. So why is that so high pressure? So that's when they're manufacturing the pipe itself, or just the product?
So the product itself, the LDPE, ethylene, some proprietary things in there, but they make plastics with it, and it's for the clarity in the plastic, for medical grade or electronics, and that's what they specialize in. Make that for.
I got it. So very high pressure. You said 50,000.
50,000. Some processes run around 45,000. That's more the standard to keep, just below maximum.
Ugh. So probably ring joints?
Lens rings.
Lens rings.
They're lens rings and gray locks mostly.
Ah. We've made lens rings before. We like making them, right? Yeah.
Well, maybe that's something we can talk to y'all about.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd have some fun with that. So you mentioned valves too.
Valves, a lot of specialty valves, ultra high pressure. I mean, that's more for operating and controlling the process with the certain injection points and things of that nature.
Crazy, man. So you've seen it all.
We have.
What's the crazy? So what's the? I'm assuming you're traveling around to a lot of different sites.
Yep.
What's the craziest situation you've ever been in inside of a plant?
Inside, and don't know if I should say a plant name, but few explosions here and there. Not on our equipment.
Thank God.
Thank God. But
so
actually,
how close were you to an explosion?
Probably 500 feet.
No shit.
It went the other way though.
Do you feel it?
Oh, absolutely. You feel the ground move about 10, 12 inches.
It's crazy. I remember my first time into a refinery, I hopped in a truck and a guy was taking us out and I was looking at some gaskets. And it was my first time in a refinery ever. And over the radio's like, we have a fire. They're doing their alert. And I was like, and I didn't say anything. And we kept driving, and then it came on again. It's like, we have an alert. And I was like, oh shit. Like, should we do something here? And he's like, nah, it's just a fire in this unit over there. It happens all the time. I was like, what am I doing with my life?
That's nothing to get comfortable with.
Yeah, not at all.
Not at all.
But some plants do, right? I mean, you have those problematic units or problematic piece of equipment.
Some plants south of us are very prone for that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. I thought we'd keep it short and sweet.
Absolutely.
The
Pleasure.
cameo, yeah, absolutely.
Pleasure.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming, man. Appreciate it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
You have
sure.
to watch it now.
All right, so we're talking about K-factor, Bryce. That's where we left off.
Sorry about that. K
problem.
factor. So K stands for nothing.
Yeah, I tried to think about how to explain this. So K-factor does not have a unit of measure. It's really just
It's an equation.
a variable. It's
Right.
it's a variable within an equation, right?
Yep.
So the equation, I'll put it on the screen. Boop. So it is torque equals the K-factor, which is unitless, as we will call it,
Okay.
times the diameter of the bolt, the nominal diameter of the bolt, and then times the target preload, or the force that you're trying to create. So if you take all those factors together, you can measure all of those other factors, but the K-factor. The K-factor is just a multiplier that's put in there.
Okay.
And it's really just, almost you could call it a safety factor. Right? So if you're trying to target or calculate the amount of force it takes to twist that torque wrench and twist that bolt and create that torsion, which translates to load in the bolt, really, because that's your ultimate objective.
Yep.
You've got particular variables in this, and they're endless. I mean, you talk about, the amount of lubrication that you're using, the type of lubrication you're using, even as far as like surface rust on the flange, if you're using new bolts or old bolts.
That's what I was going to say, like new bolts. So, because
if you're using washers, if you're using hardened washers versus washers, or
Right.
no washers.
Belleville's or
I mean, all of those variables are going to have a different impact on what that K factor is. Because if you had a perfect world and you didn't have any friction in the joint, you could spin that nut relatively easily, right? And you could generate the target preload that you're trying to generate without a lot of effort. But so much of the effort, whether it's using a hand wrench or a torque wrench or a rad gun or hydraulics or whatever the tightening method is, so much of the force and energy that's used is used to overcome that friction. So the object is to try to limit all of those frictional variables and make it as easy and predictable as possible. Because the more of those friction variables that you have in there, the higher the K factor, the less predictable the torque value is going to be.
So K factor, people always ask, like, so K factor lubricant is a big part of that?
It's probably one of the bigger parts, yeah.
Teflon, like PTFE coated?
Yeah, I mean, that has to do with the same, because if you think about on the inside of a bolt, when you're tightening this and you've got, male threads against female threads, and you've got this inclined plane as you're twisting this, you're generating load in a bolt. There's a lot of surface area that's contacting each other, right? And the more you can minimize the amount of friction on all of those surface areas, whether it be the threaded surfaces or the bearing surface on the bottom of the nut, there's a lot of surface area right there. There's surface contact areas within the threads. I mean, there's all of those surface contact areas where if you put things like PTFE coating or any type of coating,
right,
they're all going to have a unique I don't know how that's going to show up on the podcast.
It's kind of interesting.
They're all going to have a unique, what we will call K factor. They're all going to have unique frictional characteristics that impact, again, how much force it takes to apply the preload.
Why is it important?
Well, if you're trying to generate a particular load on a gasket, let's say,
Right.
that's probably the most,
Because I guess-
the most common application, right?
What's the purpose of a bolt?
Yeah. So the purpose of the bolt is to generate load, to tighten the bolt,
Yep.
generate load, and apply a
Create
consistent
this-
amount of load on the gasket.
To create a seal.
Yeah.
Right.
So that means creating a consistent amount of load on each one of the
Each
bolts.
bolt, right.
And it's creating a predictable amount of load on each one. But you're using torque as an avenue to get there.
Yep.
And torque is the twisting force
It's
there.
very
which-
inconsistent.
Which translates to the load in the bolt. But if you don't know how that twisting force correlates to the load in the bolt,
Right.
then you're never going
never
to know.
know.
There's
Right.
no way to know.
There's so
unless
many-
you're using like
smart bolt.
SPC4 smart bolts,
Right.
load indicating devices,
Right.
a load cell. There's multiple ways to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but unless you've got something like that, generally people aren't using that technology. They're using just straight torque values.
A DTI washer kind of will tell you that from a generic standpoint, like a very basic.
Yeah, I've never really done any testing on the accuracy of those, but the idea is that, you've got like a silicone inside
Right.
the washer, and at a certain amount of load, it will extrude at a point. So once you hit that target load, it'll extrude.
It squirts. It's called a squirter washer.
It is, yes.
Squirts.
I don't know how accurate that would be. It's probably a plus or minus 20
Football
or 30
field.
percent type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not very accurate. But they'll, common saying is that, even in a torque wrench, you probably got 30% of your torque load that's being applied being aided by friction, all those friction factors and things. So that's why it's important to minimize the amount of friction by using hardened washer, by using the proper lubricant, even using new bolts. If you're using old bolts, you probably have scale and rust, and you probably have a few dings on the threads. All of those are friction generators that are going to impact. The torque wrench will still click at 80 foot-pounds, but the amount of preload that's translated, if your torque value is not just, or your K factor is not a predictable one, then you're not going to end up with a preload that you think you're getting.
Dude, I love our business, man.
Isn't that cool?
It is.
That's probably the most basic, I guess, calculation that we deal with. Is that going to work?
Yep, it should. If it doesn't, we're in trouble. This is a sample piece, though. It's a sample nut.
But to round that out, K factors is probably one of the most basic and most common calculations that we do every day. People will call us and ask for torque values and loading recommendations and that sort of thing.
Something
And
that we can help
always-
with.
Yeah.
Right? We can help, we can assist with torque calcs and K factors.
It's always part of the questions that come out of that. Say, hey, I got this 3/4 inch bolt. It's made of this material. How much torque should I put on it? This is the type of gasket that I'm using.
Yep.
And, the questions always follow, okay, are you using hardened washers? Are you using new bolts? What kind of lubricant are you using? All of that.
How many times we hear that people don't use new bolts? Like they're going to go in and with the old bolts.
That's very common.
Very common.
Very
It's just
common,
it blows my mind that you have a critical application with like 660 studs. This is one you hear because they're so expensive.
Yeah.
And they call us and they're like, "Hey, we need these bolts in 2 days." And then we price and they're like, "Oh, we don't want to pay that price. So we're just going to go back in with the old bolts."
Yeah.
And it's a critical application, and they don't know if it's been yielded. They don't know
Yeah.
kind of, damage has been done to them.
But if they took good care of them, and if they took them out and used a wire brush on them, I mean, there's a strong likelihood that you would get a more predictable result. But no, you won't. That's
Right.
a good point. But I'm not saying it can't be done. But I would say, generally speaking, people don't take
They don't yield.
care of the bolts, and they don't the guy that's installing them
That's
is
the thing.
probably hammering on it with his wrench to get the nut on. And,
I mean, the people that are installing those, I mean, they are going by a procedure, right? I mean, they have a procedure, and then
Well, if you're lucky.
9 times out of
If you're
10,
lucky.
they're not following that procedure,
Yeah.
and they're just going to hang on this wrench and, just hope for the best.
Yeah, star
And
pattern.
they start it up, and then there's
Whatever.
no leak, and they high five, and they go home, and then,
or
they don't care.
You've got 8 bolts on a flange, and you've got the one in the back that's harder to get to, so you kind of neglect that one a little bit.
Sure.
So if your
a good
practice
point.
is doing a star pattern or a multi-stage pass, you can't say that if all bolts
Every
aren't
single one.
accessible,
Right.
that they're going to get treated evenly and fairly. I mean, in an ideal laboratory environment, it's you think it's being done. I always say this one thing about I was doing a training session with a bunch of people, and there was multiple people in the room, and all the maintenance managers were in the front of the room, and then all of the hands, all of the craftsmen were in the back, all the guys that turn wrenches. And one of the first questions I asked was, is your standard practice in your plant to use torque wrenches? And the maintenance managers in the front row, they all said, yep. I could see their heads shaking, absolutely. And then the guys in the back were going,
Hell no.
nope. So it shows you that disconnect.
Right.
You've got different disciplines in a plant. You've got
Yep.
maintenance managers, you got engineers, and then you got the people turning the wrenches. And if they're not all on the same page, they're
Right.
not trained properly.
You never know.
Yeah, you just never know.
You never
and,
know.
As much as nobody likes to admit it, that is the reality of the situation.
Yep.
And I know there are some organizations that have come a long way in that regard. There's people that are emphasizing training and all of the things that would constitute better practices or best practices. And it's heading in that direction for sure.
Absolutely.
When we first got in the industry, though, I will say
A mess.
it was amazing. There weren't as many accidents as what there were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
It's a crazy business.
Okay, torque. K factor is very important. Calculating torque.
You just like to geek out on this stuff.
I
man.
do.
mean,
That's
you are a big, huge geek.
It's a cool topic. I think there's a lot of people that would probably appreciate a little bit of discussion on that. Not too technical, but just a basic overview.
Sometimes on our podcast, we got to let you geek out,
Yeah.
right?
But like Bryce was saying, he walked out in the shop. He really assembled some good parts, Bryce. You really outdid yourself here. Does that nut actually go with that, or is it just
It
coincidence?
does. No, it does.
Okay.
This is
That's an awesome set right there.
an extra nut
Yeah.
and an extra bolt. Do
So-
you know the DIN spec that this applies to? Let's see. Here's a good one.
Is that a wasted stud?
It is.
It's a DIN 2510.
2510. That's exactly right.
You
Well
can't
done.
stump the master, Bryce.
Well done. I was sure you were like, I don't
No,
know.
no way. I know this stuff like the back of my hand.
B23. Class 5 on the nuts.
Impressive.
Class 3. Oh, I think we're disconnected on that, but I don't think that
it's
matters
fine.
here.
It's fine. It's
So,
separate.
class 3 on the bolt, class 5 on the nut. Okay?
It's a beautiful part. There's no
40
way in the world we charged enough for that.
4340. Check this out.
Somebody
too.
got a heck of a deal
Check
on that.
this out. 4340 heat treated to B23.
Class 5.
Class 3 on the stud.
Oh, man.
Class 5 on the nut.
Whoa.
The studs they wanted to be Teflon coated 1070, so Xylene 1070, and it was all done in about 7 days.
So that explains the slack there. It's overtapped.
Yeah. Well, this was a bad part. That's why I grabbed it. So the good parts are actually,
You don't have to admit that on the podcast.
well, it was a setup. It's good. That's why we have it and our customer doesn't.
Okay. So it has Tommy holes in the nut, which tells you that this is going to be hydraulically tensioned.
Hydraulically tension.
Yes.
So they put that deal over it and just,
Hydraulically. Yeah, the deal goes over on the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then these holes are exposed, and then you've got basically a hydraulic load cell which stretches the stud,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got a little Tommy wrench that comes along, turns this, tightens it, and then you let it go.
Yep.
And it's tensioned properly.
so there was, I think,
So that's one where K factor does not apply
because of
because you're not
You're not
looking at friction. You're looking at the amount of hydraulic load it takes to stretch the stud, but then your all of your variables are in the pump and the hydraulic fluid and the calibration on the gauge and all those things. So they're still variable.
But it's still way more accurate, right?
You know, I think you would probably find arguments on either way, because if you think about it, when you load this hydraulically, you're overloading it to a certain amount, because you're only going to tighten this nut to where it's snug against the body.
Right.
You're not going to torque it or anything. You're just
Right.
tightening it. So when you let off the hydraulic,
it kind of
it will
has
let
a
go.
little relax.
So you have to compensate and over
Sure.
stretch the stud
I get that.
so that you relax into an area that is your target preload.
into that sweet spot.
But it's a little bit of a science, and it's somewhat predictable. So I would say it is more accurate than using a torquing method where you have K factors and variables involved in it. Yeah.
So DIN 2510 B23.
That is a beautiful part. I don't want to let that go. You think we can
badass,
keep
right?
one of them?
No, that's ours.
Okay, beautiful.
Customer already picked that apart up.
But you said this is a reject.
No, the nut is a bad nut that we made.
Okay, but nobody will know. Nobody will know.
No, but that's still our part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sample part.
We should.
We always make an extra.
We should still
piece.
send it out to have it coated, though.
We can.
Yeah.
We can do whatever you want, Chris.
Yeah.
It's your world, man.
Let's do that.
We're just here for you.
Yeah.
What do you call that?
Another nice part. I don't know. I'm going to call that a threaded spacer.
Like a locking. I don't know. Because here's the funny thing. So you have threads here, right?
Yeah, I
You
think
have
so.
Threads, and then you have tapped holes here. So it's got to be going down into a hole, and it's going to bottom out,
Spacer.
right?
Absolutely.
And then they're obviously threading something there. I don't know. It's an interesting part. B16. I don't know the dimensions on this. I didn't get the dimensions. What do you think?
Doesn't matter.
What do you think the OD is on that?
I'm going to say 6 inches.
Really?
Yeah.
6 inches?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yeah,
You think that's 6 inches?
Yeah.
No way.
I think so.
No way. I think it's less.
Okay.
4.5. 5.
Okay.
What do you think those holes are?
I think those are
3/8.
going to be 3/8. Yeah.
3/8.
3/8. 16.
16, that's right.
Yeah.
B16, again, an extra part that they made. Just a cool
It's a nice part.
spacer, whatever you want to call it. Maybe a bushing? Maybe not.
Look at this next one. This is amazing.
One of the coolest parts I think we've ever made.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's
It's
very
up
nice.
there.
It's very nice. Yes.
Do you know it?
Do I know it?
Do you know the part? Because you don't even know what I'm
I
about to
looked
talk
at the
about.
drawing. I had to translate it for the guys. Yes, I absolutely looked at it.
So it's a double start.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
double thread start on both ends.
Yes.
You have fine thread on this end. You have quarter 8 pitch on this end.
Yes, sir.
And,
and
they're
it's
left
reverse
hand.
threads.
They're
yes.
left hand.
I was going to
Left-hand
see if
threads.
you noticed that, because
Yeah.
I noticed it while you were gone.
Left hand thread.
So this is a double thread. It's kind of like if you think about
A Coke-
a
a
Coke
water
bottle, a water bottle, or a plastic Coke bottle or something. If you look at that, those have double start threads because you can twist it, and it's got an extreme amount of travel. It travels very quickly. You can twist it. You don't have to keep turning a Coke bottle. You turn it one turn or half turn,
And it catches and
and
goes.
it's tight. It's a very similar concept here. So rather than one thread that starts all the way around this, you have, since it's a 2-start thread, you have one start here, one start 180 degrees apart, and there's 2 distinct thread forms going through this, and it's exactly the same on this side. I assume you have like a coarse thread on this side and a fine thread on this side, right?
That's 8.
Yeah.
So that's inch and 7/8, 8. Left hand double start. This is inch and a half 12. So fine. Same thing. Left hand double start.
Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to tell you this is the coolest part.
Might be the
Yeah.
coolest part ever.
And I don't know if you can see it, but
Little port.
there's these little small holes there. This doesn't go all the way through. They're exactly 180 degrees apart. Very small little hole, but it only goes down about maybe 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch on each side.
And then you got a hex down there.
And then you got a little machined hex that doesn't run off the edge. It just goes up to the threaded portion.
That's pretty cool, man.
So it's a very cool part.
And that's just the center, right?
Yeah, it's just a center drill, which is characteristic of all of our parts.
Yeah. We like center drills.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't like center drills,
Go somewhere else.
go elsewhere.
Yeah. I think most people do, though. We have a little risk in saying that.
Yeah, we love.
Yeah.
We love center drills.
So those are parts. Those are cool. So let's not labor on that, but awesome parts.
You know, and there's a lot more out there, man. The shop is
We got some big old parts. We've got
parts.
4 1/4 A5 40 B23
B23s,
class 1.
I think they're class ones, yeah. We
4 1/4.
We got a lot of Teflon.
39 inches long.
A lot of
big.
big Teflon. I think we got some 4-inch Teflon out there.
Yeah.
It's wild out there right now.
Yeah. We got pallets. We don't even have a place to put them.
We have a customer that wants to. They're waiting to have enough orders to have a dedicated truck to ship up to them. So, and they're all special.
Yeah.
It's been a wild ride, baby.
So there's that. We've got the new building. We've got the entire sales group as of today moved into the new building.
It's exciting.
We've got fiber optic cable run from this building to that building. We got phones ringing simultaneously. We got computers and networking all done. I mean, we're operating over there in the other building right now.
Yeah.
We just got signs put up at 7 a.m. this morning.
The Landis is hooked up.
Landis is hooked up. We've already run some parts on it.
Mm-hmm.
We've got electrical being run around there. So all of the 480 3-phase. We got the 240 single and triple phase.
It's been fun, man.
We got saws being connected. Studmaster.
We need work. We need
got
more of this.
2 brand new CNCs that'll be delivered next week. That's what that call was.
More work,
Yeah.
right? More special.
We do need more.
Crazy work.
We're working a lot. We've got
A lot of overtime.
Yeah, a lot of overtime, a lot of hours. The guys are happy about that. But we could always do more.
What do you know, here's a funny question for you. And everyone's probably stopped watching. What do you think we do best at Patriot Bowl?
What do you mean, as far as like what parts
Like, what is
or what
our-
aspect of our business?
Yeah, what do you think like our core like competency is?
I think we're nimble and we're fast. And
Yeah.
I think when somebody approaches us with something that they need, we get very creative and we figure out a way to get it done.
You know, I listen to people talk to us on the phone, and I think you're exactly right. I think it's just they tell us what they need, and we make it happen. You know, we hear it all the time, like other people, like, this is the best lead time that we could get. This is the best price that we could get. This is, you know, like, we will
I
work
think
toward
and,
a
I mean,
goal.
there's a little bit of trepidation in saying this, but you know, almost always, and we say this all the time, if you've got lead time and you've got plenty of time, we're probably not your best option.
Yeah, I mean, we'll work with you.
I mean, I hate to
right?
say that.
I mean,
and we
well,
love long lead time stuff, but
I will say that we're flexible and we'll work with you. And, you know, that's one of the things that it's not like we have shareholders that we have to answer to and we have to, you know, it's not like we have really rules that we have to adhere to. But to your point, you know, when you need something, that's when
we're
we
the call.
can move.
We're the call.
That's
Absolutely.
when we can move. We got a call today,
Yeah,
right?
we did. That was a big one.
A big one. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
Weekend's going to be busy.
yeah. We're gonna have to jump through some hoops, but we'll get it done.
That's what we do.
Yeah, new customer, couple of new customers out of
A
that,
couple of new customers
potentially.
out of that. Yeah.
and some parts we've never run before,
Mm-hmm.
but
Be good.
we will just get it done.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, episode 55
is in the books.
is in the book.
What are you doing this weekend?
You know, it's one of the only weekends that I don't have a whole lot going on, so I think
Good.
we're just going to
Keep it that way,
You
man.
know,
Relax.
the boys got a baseball showcase. He's going to go do. The girl has the weekend off, so I think we're just going to chillax at the house and do some pool activities. Maybe
Good
get the
for
boat
you.
out.
Good for you.
You got a wedding, don't you?
Andrea's already in Austin. She's got a cousin that's being married, and I will travel there tomorrow.
You got an Airbnb or what are you doing?
A hotel. Her Uncle Bob rented everybody a hotel.
Nice, like
Yeah.
an entire hotel.
You know, rooms in a hotel. It could be the whole
Yeah,
hotel. I
that's
don't know how
pretty
many people are
badass.
there, but
So when you go to a wedding, what do you drink?
you know, I have been on an old-fashioned kick
Yeah.
like you would not believe. I just can't even imagine drinking anything else. I mean,
Really?
I'm actually starting to get worried about my level of intake.
I actually was thinking the same thing.
Every night I'm drinking an old-fashioned.
You should stop,
Yeah.
especially because whiskey isn't that bad for you.
Yeah.
Because whiskey doesn't have anything. It doesn't have all the sugar, and
But
you're putting sugar.
Yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm putting.
You're putting sugar
the simple
inside,
syrup. You're putting
and
the bitters
cherries
and the cherries. Yeah,
Mm,
I love it though, man.
it's good.
I can't. You know,
I can't stop.
I don't have an addictive personality.
I can't stop.
I don't have the addictive personality, but on this one,
Until it's an old fashioned.
until it's an old fashioned.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun because I'm just experimenting with different stuff.
It is fun.
Different whiskeys.
Different whiskeys.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's good. I love it. It's not like I've got a whole lot of other vices though. I don't smoke. I don't eat a lot of terrible stuff. I don't. I went and had some tacos for lunch.
So I'm going to record you in your office.
Yeah.
Smoking and
You had 3 donuts today.
I did.
I didn't touch the donuts.
Dude,
Some vendor
Friday-
brought us donuts today.
Fridays-
Every time I looked at Bryce, he had a donut in his mouth.
and donut holes. So
And he's drinking whiskey. I
Fridays-
had not one bite of any donut.
so I try to work out every day. Fridays, I know when we
Well,
do
you
the
eating 3
podcast,
donuts a
just
day.
pump your brakes. I know we're going to drink whiskey, so I eat whatever I want. I just call this my cheat day, and I do whatever I want. I'll eat 80 donuts if I want. And I'll go have tacos.
This is your one cheat day and you're eating 80 donuts.
Yeah,
There's got to be some
no way.
balance here, Bryce.
That is balance. One day, I do what I want. That's balance. I
Okay.
tip the scale, though, quite a bit on that one day.
Okay. Well, hopefully we get no more rain this week
Yeah, F the
because
rain.
we are done with this shit.
We're moisturized.
Yep. So have a great weekend.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining. We'll be back next week. Promise. We won't miss another one. We've got
Like-
all this office stuff behind us.
Yeah, like, comment,
So,
share.
Yep.
We're here.
All right. Have a great weekend,
See you
guys.
next week. Adios.
See ya.